Back medication now so I can actually get a coherent thought together in the closing address. Let's have all the goalies lean forward and parents claps in here so I don't have to project the voice too loud. As a warning, those people in the front row are definitely in spitting territory because I do spit a lot when I speak to kids. I want to thank you for having a great week. We've put, I think, around 500 kids through the camp this summer already after this weekend. Another 5 weeks to go. You guys had a great week as far as listening. Didn't have to boot anybody out. I know from the opening address I try to sound like I like to kick kids out a lot, but normally it doesn't happen. This week was no exception. Pretty well behaved group of kids. We got you better. We worked on your save selections. We worked on some game situations. We used a lot of the props like the screen boards, the ramps. We had lots of deals and showdowns. And some guys made some good saves, and we did see some progress. And for the most part, we saw a lot of great attitudes. There was nobody whimping on a dry land because they had allergies and stuff. So it was a very good week in that regard. We've got a bunch of stuff that's going to happen. And I'm going to have a quick 5-minute speech with you on something. You're going to come up and get your report cards. Sprons is going to hand you out a package of information, and you can look at it. This is the first year in 25 years of me doing this where we've changed report cards slightly. What we've done is we've put an asterisk on certain report cards for those kids that don't have the necessary abilities to continue forward as a goaltender. And so if you see the asterisk on your report card, we'll also be including a figure skating application just to make sure you're not left out in the cold. But no tears. Not everybody can be a goalie. And I also have to look at these report cards intently because my staff have a nefarious plot. Am I allowed to use polysyllabic words or not? I just want to check before I get into it. What? They put report cards with stunt names on them that aren't of real people. They're X-rated in nature and sophomoric, public school, high school announcement type material. So I got to make sure I read them and make sure there's nothing bad on them. And if there's any spelling mistakes, I was a phys ed teacher, not an English teacher, and I did not write these, so it's not my fault. We had one of my goalies early fill out report cards, and his name was Michael Layton, who's played in the NHL. I've had around 12, 13 kids I've directly trained playing in the NHL. And Michael filled out a report card for a kid one time. And in the comments section, he said, this kid had a great week. He did a great job putting his rebounds in the corner. And how do you think he spelled putting? P-U-D-D-I-N-G. Right? And half the kids here, literally right now, are looking at me like, what? That's not how you spell putting the rebound in the corner? Your parents explain that one to you. Shake my hand when you come up here, and Sprons, where are we handing it off here? Brooke will give you some information. Jacelyn Arthur. Was I close? Okay, how do you say it? Okay, fair enough. Hey. Glenn Crandall. Good job. You won an award this week. I'll tell you what it's for later. Will Calloway. Good job, Will. Sprons, remind me that there's a camcorder on recording this, so be very careful with what I say. Just hit me in the back of that if I say something inappropriate. That could never happen. Jack Webster. Ryan Baker. Louis Duddle. Is that close? Nathan McMillan. Since I was so drugged up in my opening address, did I ever tell you the McKichan story? No. What? You have, if you know it, don't give it away. Just listen and take it. When I mispronounce names, I apologize. But I feel really bad when people mispronounce names because I've borne the brunt of that. I played my first game in the NHL December 5th, 1990 versus New Jersey Devils, and they called me McKichan. I also did a clinic one time in Kentucky. My name's actually pronounced McKichan. This kid in Kentucky, 16-year-old kid, got struck right in the jaw. I came over to the kid, tears in his eyes. Are you okay? You okay? He goes, I'll tell you what, Mr. McKichan, I got me hit right in the nads. He said, are you okay? Because I've never worn me a jock, but I'm fixing to get one now. He said, you're 16 years old, you've never worn a jock? Because I thought my reflexes was quick enough. If I mispronounce your name, get over it. Ben, Cuzzle, a bunch of vowels and some consonants. How do you pronounce it, Big Ben? Of course it is. I love your red helmet. Nikki Bohr. She's not a ring echo. Nikki. Where is she? It's the third kid we've lost this week. Alan Johnson. Liam Van Gelder. Good job, Liam. James O'Neill. Where are you from, James? That explains it. Train Brown.
Liam.
Is that correct? Sure, yeah. Alex Metzger. Timmy Crandall, Esquire. TC do a good job with this week, sir? Nice. Matt Pryor. Good job, Matt. Nathan Warren. Smile. Not too much down. There it is. Take it. Connor Andrews. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You don't get the award for coming the farthest distance. Who gets that this week? Hong Kong. Some kid from Hong Kong. Andrew Dahl.
Came from Hong Kong.
Now, Andrew's dad and I played minor hockey together all the way up, and his uncle also, and I could not stop either of them ever. They were probably the most shocked of all time that I actually played in the NHL since I didn't stop them once in 18 years. John Marshall. Jordan LaRoche from Hong Kong. Joe Raymakers. Francis Forty from New Jersey. Francis's mother is on The Real Housewives of New Jersey. Have you ever watched that show? I want you to guess which mother it is. Roman Bender, Nova Scotia. All right. Can you please take your information I just handed you, and when you're done crying at some of the bad comments on there, just set it underneath your seat so you're not looking at any paperwork. You should have nothing in your hands if you're a goalie. Set it underneath your seat, Johnny. Okay, Robin, set that underneath your seat. We'll get started. Just take 5 minutes and we'll be done. When I talk to kids, I always ask them in this environment, how many of you want to play in the NHL at some point? Really? How many of you don't want to play in the NHL? Mothers, fathers, how many of you want your kids to play in the NHL? We're doing this as an investment, right, for their careers. We want them all to play in the NHL. I know as a kid I wanted to play in the NHL, and I'm sure parents, having spent all this exorbitant amount of money for hockey schools, would like some payback at some point, hopefully. Well, I've had the good fortune to make the NHL in 2 separate disciplines, once as a goalie, and then in a separate independent way as a coach. So I, as a scout, coach in the NHL, and as a player, I know what it takes to get to the NHL, having seen and been around people that have accomplished it, myself included, the Andy McDonalds of the world, and the people that have come through the Maple Leaf system. So what I'm going to talk to you about right now is first-hand account advice of how you guys, if you want to do that, can improve your chances. I came up with a quote one time related to this. I'll say the big words and then I'll break it down for you. As an athlete, you must systematically and with vigor remove all excuses for failure. And ultimately, the final result is you make it. Here's what that means. And I used this list when I was a kid. I called it the suck list. The things I wasn't good at. I wasn't good at blocker side low. My recoveries from my butt, not good. My rebound control was shaky. I was too scrambly. I wanted to. I was passionate about finding out the things I was no good at. And parents, you know with your kids, the last thing they want to do is stuff they're not good at. They enjoy, they'll work on stuff they're semi-good at. But they don't really want to hear about all the stuff that's not right with their game. So for me, if I was you, I'd be creating a very detailed list, using that report card, emailing me, emailing Spront, saying, listen, what are the key areas of the game that I'm terrible at? Not that it's a negative, it's just that if you can go through and develop a plan to remove all of the areas of your game where you're no good, what are you left with? You're left with a kid that's going to have a great chance to make it. The worst thing you can do is ignore your weaknesses. You want to be confronted by them so that you can fix them. And the final point related to whether you want to play in the NHL or not is understanding in real terms what work ethic means. As a show of hands, have any of you ever had your parents tell you need to work harder? You know how many, put your hands down, you know how many players are in the NHL because mommy and daddy at the right time told them to work harder? Zero. They don't get to the NHL because somebody told them to work harder. If you've been around guys who've been in the NHL, you'll know implicitly that they have this burning passion in them themselves to work harder. And I want to translate that for you. Every time your parent says, you know, and they're well-meaning, I get it, because I've had teenagers say, you need to work a little harder. That translated means you're not going to make it. Every time somebody else tells you to work harder because they see the need for it, they're really translating that to mean you're not going to make it. And I have a challenge for you. Going forward, I want the opposite to happen. I don't want you to let your parents ever have that excuse to tell you to work harder. The one I would love to have is maybe a call in September from one of the parents complaining because their kid's working too hard on the dry lane. I would love that. But the opposite is not helpful. And I know it's hard, parents, because we want to say the right thing at the right time to push in the right direction, work ethic-wise, but you know how well that works when you tell them to clean the room and everything else. It's in here and it's out there. The way kids pick up work ethic is through osmosis. Seeing it in real terms in other people. Not hearing about it, not mom and dad hammering it in their head a million times, because they hear it once and it goes out. Let's give you some real-world examples of what work ethic is. For me, work ethic is working hard when you don't have to. Like parents, you show up today, work ethic of the group rises. There's a little more effort from all these little monkeys. Because mommy's here, daddy's here, I better work hard. You need to work hard in that environment, not because your parents are there. You need to work hard even when you don't have to. Here's an example. I had Eddie Balfour in this exact room at this exact camp, probably, 10 years ago? We're doing the elite kids out, 45-minute run around the track, and he asked if I would mind if he ran with the kids. The elite kids, 15, 16-year-old kids, guys Jordan's age. I said, Eddie, I don't care. I don't know why you'd want to. Because at that point, Eddie was 42. He'd already won a Stanley Cup. He'd already won Rookie of the Year, National Championship. He had $50 million in the bank by that point in his career. $50 million. He had everything you could want. Car collection, 50 cars, airplanes, houses, 3 wives. It was perfect. He had everything. But he wanted to know if I would mind, having accomplished everything we'd all dream about doing, if I would mind if he could run with the 16-year-old kids. So I said, no, Eddie, go ahead. He runs around the track, that track out back there, that exact track. And right at the very end, he's getting beat by a kid named Michael McCarthy from Boston. And Eddie, if you don't recall, was an ugly man. And he got massively uglier with the last stretch, and he caught the kid. And he came over, puked all over my shoes. Puke's hanging from his mouth, and he said that kid will never beat me. That is an example of somebody that's working when they don't have to. Parents, let's assume for argument's sake that you don't have $50 million in the bank. Let's just assume. But if you did, would you be running anywhere? I'd pay a guy to run and say, that's awesome, great job. That's cool. He didn't have to, but he did. What I talked about earlier, yeah, you work harder when your parents are here. I want to know how hard you work when nobody's watching. That's another testament to true work ethic. Yeah, your coach is watching, scouts are there. Of course you're going to work hard. How hard do you kick your butt at the hill at the high school when you're running hill sprints when nobody's around? How hard can you make yourself work when nobody's watching? Those are 2 key tenets of people that have the ability to play in the NHL. I guess I'm going to summarize with one last statement. I was fortunate with my father to have a great father related to being a hockey parent. The nice thing with my dad is he's a mechanic, didn't understand anything about hockey beyond keep your stick on the ice. That's pretty much all he's ever told me technically was keep your stick on the ice. And how about that great game, all that stuff. But the one thing I can say as a piece of advice he gave me is something that stuck. And if you take anything away from this week, this next sentence is the one I want you to remember. He said, you have to treat every practice, every game, every clinic, like that's the only time an NHL scout is ever going to see you. Let's rewind about 45 minutes ago. Think back to when you were just on the ice. If Scotty Bowman was out there in the crowd the last hour with a $10 million contract, ready for you, Talon, would you have done anything different? And that's the mindset you have to have. And in my case, you give me that advice when I was about 9 or 10. And Kevin will know we had lots of early morning practice and stuff. There's no parents there. They're at Tim Hortons. They don't want to watch our practice. But I was always imagining that this scout was there watching me. I created this fantasy scout. And I was stepping on the gas as much as I could all the time to impress this imaginary guy. It's normal to have imaginary friends, isn't it? Isn't that normal? So ultimately, when I was playing college hockey and the scouts did show up, was I doing anything differently? I've been playing for that guy since I was 9 years old. It's actually, I could see him now and I wasn't completely delusional. So at the end of the day, take some advice from this message from somebody that's had the fortune, the work ethic to make it to the place you guys want to get. Understand what work ethic is and what it isn't. It's not your mom and dad telling you to do. And also understand that every opportunity on the ice, you have to assume like somebody's watching. Before we go, we have an early sign-up contest I want to talk about. I've had several forms already come in. Here's what you get if you sign up today. You'll get $100 off your balance payment later. You'll also get a chance to meet an NHL goalie of your choice. Last year the kid won, he got to meet Marc-Andre Fleury. Francis Forty won the contest previously. What did you win, Francis?
A free set of custom pads.
Free set of custom goalie pads. Another prize is available. If you're interested in signing up today, you have the option to be in the draw for all those items. We have a whole list on your sign-up sheets that I think everybody should have gotten. The list of winter camps we're doing. Sprons is available for private lessons around this area, as would be myself. We have some t-shirts up front for $10. If anybody wants pictures or autographs with Sprons, he says he'll stay up front if you want to get that. He's probably texting somebody on the interweb, whatever that thing is, on the smartphone thing. On Twitter. He's on the Twitter. I'll hang it up front if anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns. And if somebody wants pictures, stuff, we can hang out there. Otherwise, it's an exceptional week from my point of view. And I'm waiting for the call in September from a mother or a father that's complaining that their son is doing too much dry land training and is working too hard and is doing too much. I would love that to happen. All right? Like my dad told me when I went away to Miami of Ohio on scholarship, he said, as I was leaving, don't let the door hit you where the Lord split you. You guys need a schematic for what that means? It means that you're leaving the building so quickly the swinging door can't hit you in the butt. All right, that's it. Hang up front, Betty. They all get
Goodness, my legs hurt.
What are you waiting for?